What's up, everybody? I'm Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL Caleb 22. This is Betting the NFL, the special AFC North edition. We do have two AFC North fans in the house with us. Jose from Lunchbreak Hot Take. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on.
And we have Hendo from Ravens Online on Gatekeepers. How you doing, man?
What's going on? I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And my co-host Derek Weatherly, also known as DWeezy. What's up, man?
DWeezy.
Wheezy.
Yes, what's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's enjoying themselves.
Yeah. So like I said, the AFC North to talk about this week. We pushed this off episode for a long time because the Deshaun Watson thing would not get settled. We had no lines to go off of win-loss total, so we had no idea how to bet this. Finally, that suspension came down. Now we got the line. Now we can do this show. And like I said, we have our two guests here to talk about the AFC North to give you that knowledge and insight that we all need for you to be a better. And that's what we're about on this show, to make you a better and give you more information so you can make smarter and better bets. So yeah, we'll get into it. Oh yeah, so like I said, we're trying to help you out. So if you can help us out by liking this video and subscribing if you have not, and if you want to help us even more, uh, there's a link in the Patreon to our Patreon below. So if you want to help us out and support us, go and click that link and see what tier fits you. But we will start this AFC North talk with the Baltimore Ravens, who are the favorites to win the division at plus 145. They're over. Yes, they are the
Their
favorites.
favorite?
They are the
Yes.
favorites. The Baltimore Ravens win-loss total over and under is at 10.5.
Okay.
But we'll go with last season. They went 8-9. They were last in the AFC North. They did not make the playoffs. They lose in the offseason. Tavon Young, Alejandro Villanueva, wide receiver Sammy Watkins, Marquise Brown. Let me scroll down here.
Anthony Averett.
Derek Wolf, Chris Ford, Justin Ellis, and Deshaun Elliott. They
Smith.
add safety Marcus Williams, cornerback Kyle Fuller, defensive lineman Michael Pierce, tackle Morgan Moses, running back Mike Davis, and defensive lineman Brett Urban. In the draft, they take in the first round safety Kyle Hamilton from out of Notre Dame, center Tyler Linderbaum from Iowa. In the second round, they take David Ojabo from Michigan. And in the third, they take Travis Jones out of UConn, defensive tackle. So yeah, the Ravens got to a hot start. They went 8-3 for the first 11 games. They got horrible injuries, and then they fell apart and they lost 6 straight. But what do you guys think about y'all's Ravens' chances going into the 2022 season? We'll start with you, Jose.
All right. Well, look, I acted a little surprised. I figured the Bengals would be the favorites because they were in the Super Bowl, but it doesn't surprise me that they're going to pick the Ravens, right? Like, yes, me and Hendo, we're critical of our team. We point out the issues that they have, but at the end of the day, I think they still had the best quarterback in the division. I think they had the best player in the division, and a big reason why they were 8-9 is because he missed the last 5 or 6 games, and the team as a whole was just injured. So it doesn't surprise me that they look at this team and say, just from the simple fact that they get healthy, that makes them a better team all around. And yeah, they did add some pieces like Marcus Williams, and they drafted Kyle Hamilton. So the expectation is that the secondary is significantly better. And you also get Marcus Peters back and Marlon Humphrey back at corner. So they're looking at it and saying the Bengals with Jamar Chase, as talented as he is, and T. Higgins, right? They're going to have a tougher time against this team with those guys in the lineup, right? All things being equal, they're going to have a tougher time. And, Lamar can do Lamar things, right? Nobody can stop him either. So that doesn't surprise me. But look, man, the Bengals were young. They still made it to the Super Bowl. They made it to the Super Bowl with a bad offensive line. They improved the offensive line this offseason. and Jamar Chase is still, I mean, what is he, 23? Jeez.
Right.
I give them the edge just because, look, man, like they did it with a young team, and they're a year older now. They got a little bit more experience, and they improved the O line. So I personally, even though I'm a Ravens fan, I would give them the edge, but it doesn't shock me at all that the Ravens are favored.
Hendo?
Yeah, like he said, I'm not surprised that they would pick them 8-3 before Lamar went down, even with all the injuries. We added some pieces. I think the best, or the thing that will help the most is the offensive line additions. Now, if Ronnie Stanley comes back, that's going to help tremendously, and that transforms this offense altogether. As in 2019, when Lamar's protected, he does even more amazing things than he does right now. So, with that being said, I can see why they would pick us, to win the division. With Jose, Cincinnati is the creme de la creme, so to speak, right now, because I think that they address more of their weaknesses than we did. We have some cohesion issues right now because it's a lot of pieces that haven't played together just yet, and they haven't had that chance to gel. Wide receiver is a big hole on this team. We don't know what we're going to do with the passing game. Steve Young said it best. We don't have a sophisticated passing offense, and that might be a hindrance. Now, in a regular season, we normally dominate with our run game. Like, we run through teams. But if Morgan Moses isn't what he is supposed to be, if Ronnie Stanley isn't back, if we don't figure out the left guard position, we may even struggle running the ball, because even though it is preseason, we're not running the ball very well. And I think that the line is going to be most critical to what we do. Now, this high price secondary that we have, listen, it's a passing league now. And I think that if we play defense the way that we're capable of, it's going to keep us in games, but I'm not sure if we're going to score enough to win a division.
Let me ask y'all, as Baltimore fans, where do y'all see that secondary lining up against the wide receiver units of the other AFC North teams?
Why do you do that?
So wait, you're asking where our secondary, like, you mean who's lining up where against, like,
No,
which,
I mean, like,
how do they stack up? He wants to know how you think they
yeah,
stack
the
up.
secondary. Of course, I mean, Cincinnati's going to dominate every other team as far as their secondary. I think,
All
as
right,
far as the division goes,
I got
but
you.
like as far as Pittsburgh and Cleveland, and just how do you see
Pass
your
happy team.
secondary matching up against those wide receiver units?
All right, so I'll say this. It's a passing league now, right? So top wide receivers, they're going to get theirs for the most part, right? A good secondary can slow them down. They can make them have, uglier game, make it tougher for them. But if they get theirs, they're going to get theirs. Like, you're not that worried about it. I think we have one of the best secondaries in the league, if healthy, and we shouldn't be afraid to go into any game against any passing offense and compete with them. Will we completely shut them down? No, but I don't expect Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to go off the way they went off on us last season with everybody healthy. I don't think that's going to happen. And as long as they don't do that, that'll keep us in games, theoretically. So how they match up with those guys, I'm not worried about it. I think Pittsburgh, we got to see how the quarterback situation is looking, because if they don't get that fixed, it ain't going to matter. Right. And of course, Cleveland is going to miss, they're going to miss Deshaun Watson for an extended period of time. And obviously, I'm not moved by who's a quarterback over there. It's
Josh Rosen, Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett, yeah, and now we're hearing Josh Rosen might be
And
competing.
Dobbs. Josh Dobbs.
So yeah, it does that. They don't scare me.
Yeah, I mean, once again, it's all contingent upon health. If we are healthy, we can be one of the better teams in the league. And more importantly to me, it is Mike McDonald. His scheme is what's going to dictate how we play these teams. Because I think Wink Martindale, he blitzed too much. He left his corners on the island, even though they weren't up to starting quality for some of them. So if he gets that fixed, potentially we have the makings of the best secondary in the league. So I think we stack up very well, but it's a passing league, and rules are kind of swayed towards offense. So no matter how good your secondary is, they have the advantage. If we don't get a pass rush, it's going to be a long day. But I think even looking back to last year, even with the replacement players that we had against Cincinnati, at least for a half, we kept it close. It's just that they just couldn't keep up the whole game. So I think we'll be just fine. May not shut everybody down, but I think we are going to be 100 times better than we were last year.
Yeah, I
All right.
definitely think there's a lot of potential behind this team. You definitely had a massive injury front across the board, different
Everywhere.
positions, depth, just to a certain degree. At a certain point, it's hard. Not that they can't field a 53-man roster, but you're not going to be able to go out there and play to your full potential if you don't have a solid roster around you. And I think, as y'all have said, health will be something that comes into play. They've definitely improved their offensive line, where the name of the game is keeping your quarterback upright, regardless of who you're walking out there with. And with a player like Lamar Jackson, he has the ability to make players around him better. Even if you don't see him running downfield, that mobility behind the line of scrimmage to allow players and wide receivers to extend plays, break off from routes, even if it's almost that sandlot fashion that you'll see the quarterback breaking from the pocket, just pointing downfield, just go. He has that ability to make those receivers around him better. So I do think there's a lot of potential that this team can definitely get a double digit win season. You know, there's been talk and that the coaching staff, has been what's been holding this team back. And, it's something I've heard from Jose and Hendo, you know, in just large doses. And it's almost like if they could get out of their way a little bit, it would benefit the team. But as I said, you have that best player in Lamar Jackson. It definitely changes the game when you're actually on the field taking snaps.
Yeah. Well, I guess I gotta be the positive one, like always. Uh, I have you definitely looking good this season. Because I just go, I would bet I just go by trends. Trend says when you have Lamar Jackson healthy, you win more than 10 games or more. That's what the number is. The number is at 10.5. And honestly, you were on the trajectory to win more than that, more than 10 games last year before you got lost Lamar Jackson to injury. So I
Mhm.
understand why you could not do that again this season. When you improved on your offensive line, which one of your weaknesses, and another weakness was your secondary in that passing defense, and you strengthened that as well. So with some healthy running backs, I mean, yeah, you guys don't have like great receivers, obviously, but that's not really the offense you're going to run. And we're not talking about whether you can win the Super Bowl or not. We're just talking about the season and your record wins in the regular season, and it shows that it's working. It's working. If you're
Yeah.
winning games with it.
Now I just
Yeah.
want to point out, like I do think they're gonna win more than 10 games. I just think the Bengals are gonna win more. Like I don't think the Ravens are gonna be a bad team this season. I think I had them winning like 12 or 13 games. I think I mean they'll be right there with the Bengals. I think the Bengals are gonna win a lot of games this year too. That's the only thing. So yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, I like the Ravens' chances this year. I think they're going to win the division. Um, I would put I'm not putting all the money on them. Like I said, you can bet multiple ways. I would probably have it with the Ravens. It's going to be a close battle with the Bengals, but that's how I would split it on my bets. But I would definitely take the over. So yeah, Derek, what is your final bet?
Yeah, I'm going with the over. The book I had it at 10 games, but still going over, getting that double digit wins. I would probably have to. I think I'd have to lean with Cincinnati, but this is definitely if you talking about the top two potential for winning the division, especially after the way the Deshaun Watson suspension came out. I think Cincinnati and Baltimore are right there at the top of the list. if both are very close, similar in price as far as odds. Um, but me personally, I wouldn't be playing Baltimore to win the division.
All right, Jose.
Yeah, I think the same. Definitely over on 10 wins. Who wins the division? I would get that edge to Cincinnati.
All right, and then Hendo.
Um, yeah, I agree. They'll win more than 10 games, health wise, contingent, but I just think Cincinnati is going to take the division probably by one game.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and next we'll get to the Cincinnati Bengals, who are the and, second to win the division at plus 175. Their over under win total is at 9.5. Um, they let's see, last season I can't find it. They go 10-7. They were first in the AFC North. They did make to the playoffs and they made it all the way to the Super Bowl. Um, they lose in the offseason Trey Waynes, Bradley Reef, defensive lineman Larry Ogunjobi, tight end CJ Uzoma, defensive lineman Wyatt Ray, and receiver Auden Tate. They add Lyle Collins, Ted Karras guard, tight end Hayden Hurst, and guard Alex Kappa. In the draft, they take safety Daxton Hill out of Michigan. In round 2, they take cornerback Cam Taylor Britt. In Nebraska, in round 3, they take defensive tackle Zachary Carter out of Florida. So yeah, this team with a big surprise, at least to me, um, making all the way to the Super Bowl. I did not think they would do that after going a 4-win team the year before. Joe Burrow coming out of injury, definitely didn't see that coming, but they do fall to the Rams in the Super Bowl. But how do you like their chances going into the 2022 season, Hendo?
Oh, as we said before, I think they're going to win a division. You take a look at this team, and last year Joe Burrow was entering his second season. He didn't even complete his first coming off an injury, so now he's had a full season under his belt. They improved the offensive line dramatically. I'm a little bit trepid about their center because they let their center go, and I think Karras or Kappa is going to be moved over to center. I'm not sure, but I'm sure they'll figure it out. Defensively, they had issues with the backfield with Eli Apple. They seem to have addressed that somewhat.
Well, I mean,
So
how many people haven't had issue with Eli Apple in the defensive backfield? I mean, let's be real about
facts.
that.
Yeah.
And they went out and they drafted some people. So I think that everything that they took as a weakness, they've improved on. And then you have another year experience with Joe Burrow under center, so that gives them a little bit of an advantage. They went to the Super Bowl, no expectations. Now, the one thing that might get them is that expectation, that weight on their shoulder of being the hunted instead of being the hunters. But I think that with the talent that they have, they'll overcome it because one issue I have with the Ravens that I've argued and went to bat for is you can overcome a bad offensive line with play calling. If you have the right play calling, you can kind of mask some things and get around it. And they did that last year. They didn't draft that offensive lineman. They went and got Jamar Chase, and we see what happened. So, listen, I think the Bengals are going to win 13, maybe 14 games and take the division.
I was gonna say, is it just me, or does it seem like over the past 2-3 years, the Bengals, over as far as the NFL in a whole, there haven't been too many teams that have retained more players and like addressed holes. Like you don't hear about a lot of turnover as far as people wanting to leave. Like, and that in a lot of ways,
You
you
mean for
got
the Bengals?
yeah.
I mean,
Look, when you're not when you're not a good team, like people don't really pay attention to what moves you're making, right?
true.
So I mean, there might have been high turnover, maybe not. I mean, I don't know. Like I haven't really paid that much attention to them. I mean, we pay attention to as much as we play them twice a year. But when they're not a good team, you're not studying a team that hard, right? But we knew the minute they drafted Joe Burrow that they were going to try to make moves. That's what most teams try to do for their young quarterback when they think they had their franchise guy. That's when they start adding pieces. I knew when they drafted Jamar Chase, that was going to be a problem, right? They got T Higgins. I said, okay, fine. They doubled down when they needed offensive line and said, no, we're going to get Jamar Chase. We'll figure that out later. I said, okay, they really trying to get this guy his weapons now, and they'll figure out the offensive line later. They figured it out sooner than I thought they would. I didn't think they're going to completely revamp their O line in one off season, but they did, and I think it's going to be a problem. But like Hendo mentioned, the one thing that could go in their favor is that now the focus is on them, and they are young, and how will they handle that expectation? How will they handle a Super Bowl hangover, right? Those, and I think that might be what the betting odds are banking against, that young team, not that much experience, and how do they handle bouncing back from a Super Bowl loss? So those are the things that are playing against them. But man, they got the talent to get over that. They got the talent to get over that. So yeah, until I see differently, I would still go with the Bengals. Like Hendo said, 13, 14 games and winning division.
And to your point, Derek, when you have what I call like the Scottie Pippen effect, when you have a team that doesn't have really good players, some of them want to secure their future. So they sign these long-term deals for less money and they stick around. Other teams didn't want them because technically they weren't really that good. And that's why the Bengals have struggled. It's just that they've put the right pieces in the right places. Now, another thing that we have to take into consideration is the Bengals play the fourth place schedule. They're not playing the fourth place schedule anymore. They're playing the first place schedule. So that's another thing that could bring them back down to earth, possibly. So, yeah, there's
good point.
That.
Yeah, that was actually something I was trying to pull up real quick. Was
you can go ahead. I'll say that's my. Yeah, like I said, I agree. That's my base point about the schedule is that they do have one of the toughest schedules in the league. I think their third toughest schedule. They have third toughest strength of schedule in the league. And honestly, I'm not sold on them. I don't like teams coming off a Super Bowl loss. I don't think I think they were they way overachieved last season. I think they got lucky in those two playoff wins against the Raiders and Titans. I don't think this team is some world-beating team. They lost to the Bears and the Jets and got swept by the Browns. So I'm just not. I'm not. Yeah, I understand they have a lot of talent, but as a full team, I'm still not even sold on the coach. I don't know if he's that great of a coach.
All good points.
True.
So I'm still thinking, yeah, they have too much challenge to be like they're not going to fall off a cliff, but I'm not going to take them to win the division. I have them fighting for the division, but they're all ultimately going to lose out to the Ravens. But I still have them with the over because their over is at, like I said, it was at 9.5. That number is pretty low, which means I got to take the over because that's too good of a number for me to take the under on that one. So, but like I said, I would still put a small. I wouldn't put all my money on the Ravens, but small. There's no rules on how much you can put on one team. You can put, as I said, I put a portion on the Ravens to win, but I would put a little money on the Bengals to win the division as well, just to cover my bases on that.
Now, you had all good points about the Bengals and not believing in them, and I had those same doubts. But when I saw them get down to Kansas City twice and once in the playoffs and come back and beat them, that's when I said maybe they're for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes they just get sparked, and sometimes teams make a run, but then they come back down to earth next season, and they don't have a good season. And that's why I always said I'm not betting on the playoffs of how well they're going to do in the playoffs. I'm betting on the regular season. How they're gonna, how much wins they're gonna make, and I have to go by what I think how they're gonna do in the regular season, and that's how
I get it. I get it.
Yeah. Like me, I'm taking the over 9.5 on the Bengals, but looking at these four teams in the division, if you were to look at one that might be a surprise to go under their number, it's possible that they could finish maybe with a 9-win season right there on the cusp. Quick look at their schedule. They got Cowboys. I know I've seen the Buccaneers, the Chiefs, Titans, Bills, all non-division opponents that are going to be tough matchups. And probably top 5 teams throughout the season, regardless when they play them. Um, you know, as I said, I believe in the Bengals. I like what they've done with the O line, and as y'all said, they drafted somebody that they thought was their quarterback. Everything seemed to pointed that was correct. They got weapons to put around him. Now they're trying to address the O line that seems to be in place. They're a dangerous team out there. And so, yes, I think all of us sort of have the same consensus that Baltimore and Cincinnati probably both finish with about double-digit wins. It's just a question of who's first and who's second. Um, but yeah, I definitely have to go over the 9.5 with this team.
All right, you got and for the division, you have any chance?
No, I got them winning the
Oh,
division.
you got to win with it. Okay. Jose, what was your final bets?
Yeah, same thing. Over 9.5,
All right,
and I have them winning the division.
Hendo.
Ditto. Over 9.5, winning the division.
Okay, we'll be moving on to it's actually the Cleveland Browns. Um, yeah, so team with a lot of drama this off season, but last season they go 8-9. They would finish third in the AFC North. They did not make the playoffs. In the offseason, they lose Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, tight end Austin Hooper, cornerback Troy Hill, receiver Rashard Higgins, linebacker Elijah Lee, and linebacker Mac Wilson. They add Deshaun Watson, Jacoby Brissett, Tavon Bryan, lineman Isaac Rochelle, receiver Jakeem Grant, and edge rusher Stephen Weatherly. And in the draft, they didn't have their first 2 picks in the draft, so they take in round 3 cornerback Martin Emerson out of Mississippi State, defensive Alex Wright out of UAB, and receiver David Bell out of Purdue. This first offseason was so much drama. I think the biggest story was Deshaun Watson, how they brought him in, his suspension, and all the drama with Baker leaving that team. So with all this chaos going on in the offseason, what do you guys think about the Cleveland Browns' chances in this division? We'll start with you, Derek.
Um, Honestly, I think as far as winning the division, it's not going to be something that's going to be on the table. Those first 11 games, even if they're able to bring in somebody like a Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think it's going to add too many wins to the table. I'm not a big believer that Jacoby Brissett or Josh Rosen, if he even gets snaps, they're not difference makers. Brissett's shown that he's for the most part a career backup, serviceable over a 3-4 game stretch. But when you start talking a majority of the season, it hadn't really panned out for him in the past. It's quite possible that we see Kareem Hunt get moved sometime. He's requested a trade out of Cleveland. There's been a number of players that have wanted out of Cleveland, whether it be OBJ, Jarvis Landry. We saw there at the end that Baker Mayfield was extremely unhappy with the organization and how things were handled. Um, so, as you know, drama is definitely the understatement with this team when it comes to the off season. And I think some of that's definitely going to have an effect on the team as far as on the field. Talent wise, I do think they have a strong defense that, depending on who's on the other side, could go out there and potentially win them games, keep the opposing team's offense sub 20 points. But there's also going to be games where if their offense can't stay out on the field, the defense is only going to be able to last so long.
All right, Jose.
Yeah, no, I agree. They have talent, clearly, offense and defense. Obviously, the run game, bringing in Amari Cooper was a huge help. A healthy Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt as well, because Kareem Hunt missed some time too, I believe.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean they will be able to compete, because I think even with Jacoby Brissett, same strategy, right? You don't need him to throw a whole lot. That's basically what they try to do with Baker. Limit his passing, run the offense through the run game, and just make smart decisions with the ball when you have to pass the ball. Problem is, I don't think Jacoby Brissett can do a much better job than Baker. I mean, maybe he does a little bit better, but not much better. The other teams in the division are getting better, and it's just going to be hard to keep up with Deshaun Watson out for so long. 11 games is a long time, and I think a lot of things will be decided by then, but not completely decided, right? So when he comes back, he still has 6 games to try to get them back in it. So it'll be interesting to see how he looks. And that's the other part of it too. How's he look coming off such a long layoff? He basically didn't play all last year, and he's going to miss a good chunk of this season. What kind of rest is he going to have? But this year, I don't see them making it, but I don't think they're worried about this year. They invested for the long term.
And
Yeah. So if this were the early 2000s, perfect team, because what they're going to do is run the ball and play defense.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a team that reminds you of like 2000 Shades Ravens.
I was about to say
Like,
they're Baltimore,
Yeah.
Baltimore Light.
yeah.
They're Baltimore. Listen, defensively, they have what Johnson, safety, Greg Newsome, corner, Denzel Ward. Like the defensive backfield is stacked, just like us. May not be on the same talent level, but they're stacked. They got Clowney, Myles Garrett. Defense is going to keep them in games. Chubb, Henderson, Hunt, they're going to run the ball. They're just going to ask Jacoby or Joshua Dobbs, because I don't even think Rosen's going to be in the equation, to kind of game manage. So I think it's going to keep them close, and I don't think they're going to do much, because even when Deshaun comes back, he's been, like Jose said, he's been off for a year. But more importantly, he can't practice with the team. So
Right.
for the whole 11 games, there's no practice. So you're supposed to just come off the street cold and mesh with the team. You'll get a week of practice and walkthroughs in. They're not going to do much. I'd be surprised if Cleveland wins 7 games.
And the over and under win total is at 8.5. Their odds to win the division are at plus 375. And yeah, like you guys saying, I don't really believe in this team. I don't think you can go into a season with Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback, though you do have, like you were saying, the defense and pretty much stacked talent they have. But obviously they got decimated receiver. They brought in Murray Cooper, but he's basically the only guy you got ready to throw to. And yes, you got
Donovan Peoples-Jones too, right?
True.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
but
he's somebody to watch out for, but I don't know if he's going to have the season that Cleveland's going to need him to have.
Right.
And I also think they were counting on Jakeem Grant as being a receiver and in special teams, and he's out on IR. He's out for the year, so that hurts them even more.
So I don't like him. You can't, even with Deshaun, even when it's back with 6 games, it really didn't matter to me how many games Deshaun Watson was going to play. You can't come off a year and a half, or now a year, almost 2 years now, by the time he does come back, and expect to play well. Like, that's just not going to happen. Jacoby Brissett in his career just is a losing quarterback. He's 14-23 in his career. Hasn't shown too much production when he was a starter. And just the fact that he's with this chaotic franchise, I mean, I just don't know how you can be successful as a quarterback.
If Brissett was with any other organization right now, I'd look at you and go, can we count the Miami years? But him being in Cleveland now, it's the same story.
Yeah,
exactly. So I would have to go with the under 8.5, and would put no money on them, no shot to win the division
at all.
Nope. Yeah, no, definitely. I wouldn't touch them as far as the division. I'll be going under on that 8.5. Just there's too much dysfunction going on with that team. I think they definitely get more than they won't be one of the bottom teams in the league. They'll have more than 4 or 5 wins, but I think they finish in that 6-7 win range.
And you both got them on the under?
Okay, yes, I have them under, right? But I'm gonna say this: I might throw a couple of dollars on them, right? Like if I had to spend $2 on the Mega Millions or put $2 down on this, all right, okay, because Deshaun Watson, oh, we lost Hendo for a second.
Yeah,
Deshaun Watson coming back, he's a wild card, and you don't feel good about it, but he's a very talented quarterback at the end of the day, and if it takes him a game to get into it, and he's back in the swing of things, then it makes things very interesting. And I think Jacoby Brissett, while I don't think he's going to have them winning necessarily, he can do enough for them to win a few games while he's
Well,
out.
let me ask you this: how many games do you think they can win with Jacoby Brissett?
3. I think they can win. I think they can win 3 or 4. Right.
Okay, so
And
with it, well, this is what I'm getting at. With this number, more or less, then ask yourself, how many games do you think Deshaun Watson can win after coming back?
that's the question, right?
Yeah,
Because
I mean, I'm not saying it's an easy question, but that's the challenge here.
Because if Deshaun Watson came in and got them on a 6-game win streak, you wouldn't be surprised. If you went in there and then win another game, you wouldn't be surprised either, right? So, even if you take the middle and say 3, that still has them under, which is why I have them under. But if you have a couple of spare dollars, you just want to say, okay, I'll put a little bit on them. It ain't the worst bet in the world. Is all I'm saying.
Okay.
Well, in all fairness, the Cleveland Browns do not have the lowest odds to win the division division.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they do not. And we'll get to that team that has the lowest odds at plus 900 to win the division, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their over-under win total is set at 7.5 games. And last season, this team was 9-7-1. They were second in the AFC North. In the off season, they lose linebacker Joe Schobert, receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, guard Trey Turner, receiver James Washington, and receiver Ray McLeod. They added linebacker Myles Garrett, defensive lineman Larry Ogunjobi, quarterback Mitchell Trubisky, safety DeMonte Casey, cornerback Levi Wallace, guard James Daniels, and center Mason Cole. In the draft, they take Kenny Pickett, quarterback out of Pitt, in the first round. In the second round, they take receiver George Pickens out of Georgia. And in the third, they take defensive lineman DeMarvin Leal out of Texas A&M. This season, it was last season they at least got to the playoffs, even though Ben Roethlisberger was aging. They're going into this season for the first time without him in like 18 years. So that's they have the biggest turnover at the most important position. So how do you think that will turn out for them this season, Jose?
Hendo says he's back. But I think surprisingly enough, they might be in a better position. Like Ben Roethlisberger was a shell himself at the end of his career, right? And it showed. And I think
those last 2-3 years were miserable.
Yeah, I mean, stat wise, he didn't look bad, but I think they did a great job just game planning for lack of arm strength and just a poor O line as well, right? They couldn't protect him either, so and I don't think they gotten much better at the O line position. So, but with that being said, whether it's Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett, these are two quarterbacks that they decided this is who they want. This isn't a hey, our guy got hurt and we're stuck with this guy, or we just missed out on these guys. Like this is basically who the guys that they want. We know Mike Tomlin's record up to this point is he hasn't had a losing season. So I think getting the quarterback in there, one of those two quarterbacks, whoever they end up starting, I think they're gonna feel comfortable with playing that guy. I think they're gonna coach him up. Right. And I mean, they have all the talent on offense. And George Pickens looks like another monster that they added. Defensively, they have everything. They're just in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be much worse than that. I mean, there might be some downgrade, but I don't think they'll be much worse than that. What's the line on them?
7.5 games.
7.5, yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking that, man. I'm taking that. I think they win 9 games, for being honest.
Hendo?
Yeah, I'm taking that bet all day. As you said, Mike Tomlin, he's never had a losing season. he may not have the quarterback that everybody thinks that team needs, but they can't be any worse than Ben. Like you said, Ben was a lamed up the last couple of years. They got Najee Harris. Now the big question is going to be that offensive line. It was a problem. They tried to address it. Even Tomlin came out this week and said, "Look, I'm not happy with these guys. Like they're not earning their money, so
Yep.
to speak." So they'll have to find ways around it. But I think defensively, once again, AFC North defensively is where they'll dominate. With TJ Watt and even bringing in Mike Flores. I mean, what's his
Oh
name?
wow, the
Brian
disrespect.
Flores. Brian
Brian.
Flores.
I'm sorry, Brian Flores. Bringing in Brian Flores is going to help their defense tremendously. So once again, defense is going to keep them in games. I think that even if it's Trubisky or if it's Pickett, they'll do enough with this because listen, wide receiving core, they got Deontay, they got Claypool, they got Pickens. If Calvin Austin comes back off an injury, they have a team that can move the needles a little bit for the passing game. And like I said, both of those quarterbacks, even Mason Rudolph, his arm is stronger than Ben Roethlisberger. So passing, they'll be slightly better. I just don't think it'll be enough to get them in the playoffs, but I don't think that they'll have a losing record.
Yeah, as far as this team, I'm definitely gonna be riding with the over. As far as the other fellas on the panel have said, and part of that is, you know, there was a lot of talk back around the draft that basically was Pittsburgh gonna have another Dan Marino situation on their hands, another good, strong, quality quarterback come out of Pitt University, right there in their hometown, right there in their backyard and go off and never play for the team and have for the most part, a successful career, Hall
Mhm.
of Fame worthy. Um, but that being said, more or less, that paints the picture. This team is dedicated to making the quarterback position work, meaning they knew that they already had talent at the wide receiver position, but they felt maybe that not necessarily it was a concern, but you want to put weapons around. You bringing in a quarterback, you want to put weapons around them. You already have a couple pieces. They pick up George Pickens, just fitting right in line with that narrative. And when you have a team that's dedicated to improving a specific unit on the field, it may not show in the first year, but there's definitely an importance placed there. So when it comes to things like especially with the game total wins, you're talking about a team that hadn't finished under 500 in I don't know how many years off the top of my head, however long Tomlin's been
Over a
there, I
decade.
believe.
Over-
Yeah, like what is it? Taxes, death, and Steelers don't finish under 500.
Yeah.
But
And they, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh yeah, and they don't even have to finish under 500. They can be 8-9 and still hit this over.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's another fact. So even if you feel like that streak might be broke because this team isn't that talented, you can still hit on this over 7.5 because clearly the books are saying that they believe that the streak's coming to an end this year, or they wouldn't have put the number where they did.
Right.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I like this team better than I guess Vegas does because they haven't bottomed me out. Um, Even with whether they go with Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett, I think Mitch Trubisky has had some success. He has been to the playoffs and he has a winning record. When most because he had, like you said, Hendo, if he had, they have good defense, and if you can have defense, that got him through with the Bears. But if they go with Kenny Pickett, he has familiarization with the surroundings. He's a 4 year start in college. He won't all that. I don't think he'll be a disaster. He wasn't the best prospect, but at least he'll be somewhat competent of a quarterback, even in his rookie year. Especially when he has Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and George Pickens now look like he's gonna be good. So with all that surrounding him, I just don't see how this team can just be like the Vegas seems to be saying, like there's gonna be disaster this year. I don't see that. I see that. I like the over definitely in this case. I think they win around 9 games. Um, But like Jose was taking a little bit money on the Browns, I'll put just a tad bit, maybe $5, throw $5 on the Steelers to win this division because plus 900. What even if you're gonna make a small bet at plus 100, you're gonna make some good profit.
Make some money, yeah.
Write that down.
I agree, Caleb. I would do the same thing. I got them. Yeah, I'll take that. These are there 7. I'll take the over on that, and I'll put a little money on them. Like, man, I didn't think they would make the playoffs last year, right?
Right.
And they made it. You can't count out Mike Tomlin, and it's one of those things where they just have to be a little bit better, right? Like Mr. Trubisky just has to be a little bit better than we thought, or Kenny Pickett just has to be a little bit better than we thought. And next thing you know, they could be challenging for that division. You can't count them out until the final week. That's the scary part about them. So yeah, that's over and put a little money on them, a couple dollars.
Hendo?
Yeah, I'm taking the over. They're not going to win a division, but they may challenge for the playoffs. They may. I'm not going 100% in on that, but it's easy money, so I'd put something on it.
Eric?
Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna be riding with the over 7.5 here.
All right. That'll wrap up our talk on the AFC North, and we will get into our question portion of the show. If you have a question, just leave it down in the comments, and we will feature your question on this part of the show next week. So yeah, go ahead and leave a comment, have your question, we'll answer for you. But do you guys, I asked you before the show if you guys had a question about sports betting, and maybe me and Derek can answer that for you.
Okay, all right. So, sports betting is I mean, I don't think it's become legal yet over here in Maryland, right?
Yeah, the Maryland situation has gotten a little funky. It's in limbo at the moment.
Yeah.
So okay, let's pretend for a second. It's legal. I could go down to the Horseshoe. I go to Maryland Live, and
Right.
and I got $20. I'm brand new to this, okay? Because when we do lunch money bets, I always tell people, hey, if sports betting is becoming legal where you're at, and you want to get in on this, ask some questions. What advice do you get to me? I want to go and just put a couple of dollars down. I'm new to this. I'm a little nervous, but I know I want to go put some money down on the Ravens or something else. What would you suggest a guy like me who is very frugal with his money? I got $20. Where do I go?
Eric, you want to take it?
Sure. The one thing I would suggest, and this is something I've heard other people mention as well, especially if you're betting in a casino or physically in a sports book, basically have yourself together. Know what you want to bet on, or at least the games that you want to bet on. There's a number system in a lot of books, and more. It can be as simple as, you just tell them what game you want to bet on, what side you're taking or something like that. But don't go up there with 20 questions, because you will have a number of people in line, and depending on what they're trying to bet, there's no telling when the closing time for that is. And that can definitely play a lot as far as factoring into a system or an approach to a game or matchup.
Okay.
Yeah, and if like I said, you're only going there with $20. I mean, I'm like, that's what I do. I don't bet more than $20 a week because I don't really have that much money. So what I do, I make, that's why I love parlays. Parlays will always you can bet a little, win a lot. If the parlays cards are available, I do those. That's why I like doing. They give you, if you can get a teaser. That always helps. It helps your odds, immensely, because I win a lot on the teasers, because they give you larger point spreads and you get a better chance of winning. You don't win as much, but if you're just betting $20, obviously you're just betting just to have some fun and maybe win a bet. So that's why I would suggest if you're just looking, spend a little money and
Now who should have made the bet is the other half of Jose's LBHT and Ring Kings, Brodney, Leon Edwards to upset Usman. To win outright was at least plus 300. I don't know what the odds for the KO was.
But like B said, with his bad luck, had he been on Leon Edwards, that would have been
It
a
wouldn't
first
have
round knockout. So
That's
it's
not
okay.
how this works.
In B's world, that's exactly how it works.
Well, then I'm gonna need him to go out and bet the opposite of every single play I put down. Like
that might be a strategy. We'll put that to the test.
All right, Henry, you got anything?
Yes, I have a very specific question for the both of you,
Okay.
and this is going to make you think a little bit, I hope.
All right.
So I need for you to give me the NFL team with the lowest odds that you think has the best chance to win the Super Bowl.
Lowest odds.
okay.
Okay. Just give me time to.
Yeah, I'll have to actually look at the odds because I get what you're asking.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what we're doing that show next week. We are going over the Super Bowl chances and MVPs and the comeback player of the year and all those ancillary things. We'll be doing that show next week and we're picking a Super Bowl winner.
But I mean, save it for your show then. I don't want you.
Yeah,
No. Well, I mean, we're not going to take the lowest odds. I mean, at least I'm
okay.
not. So I can definitely answer your question this week. For the lowest odds,
that you think has the best chance.
I mean, me
Jaguars.
personally,
Jaguars over my head.
No,
you're thinking about it in the opposite direction.
Hey, Jose, I mean that can actually win it.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, listen. Doug Peterson, the coach now. You know what I'm saying? Trevor Lawrence gonna look like the real deal this year. Just saying.
Here, you can take that bet and donate it to charity. That's what you can do with that. But yeah, looking at the odds, I think the Chargers could be an interesting team to win the Super Bowl. Priced at plus 1,100, about fourth or fifth in the league as far as shortest odds. You do have the Baltimore Ravens at plus 1,600, which is still about top 10. The 49ers are at the same price range, which, depending on your feelings on Trey Lance, could affect that some. Me personally, I don't think I'd play the San Francisco at that price. An interesting long shot right behind them is the Philadelphia Eagles at plus 2,000. And we saw some of the acquisitions they made this offseason, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. And I think Jalen Hurts is better than Nick Folk. So,
I'm not sure that's saying much.
So, but he won a Super Bowl.
He didn't get him to the Super Bowl. He won a Super Bowl.
He got him to the playoffs.
He won 3. Hey, there have been horrible quarterbacks that have won 3-4 games in a row.
This is true.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm looking at the Titans at plus 4,000 and the Raiders also at plus 4,000. I like those two teams chances because I'm very high on the Titans definitely this season. And
even with Tannehill,
like they made it all the way to the championship. They made it all the way to the championship with Tannehill, and like I was talking about earlier on this week on Good Friends Better Rivals. That you don't need to be that great of a quarterback. You just need to be good enough to make to win a Super Bowl. I mean, I think there's multiple examples of that.
I mean, I get it, but you need a decent quarterback to win a Super Bowl. But he lost them a playoff game. He lost them that game against Cincinnati. Those interceptions, horrible.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not taking them to win. I'm just looking at them.
I understand. I got you.
I would take them. If there's a little luck on the side and things fall their way, I think that'd be a good bet. And we were just saying, like, why would I not take a little money at plus 8,000 with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Some things fall their way. Why not? That's pretty long odds, and they're well coached. So, I like. I would, if I was going to make that type of bet, I'd put money on a stable franchise like that. But yeah, that hopefully that answers y'all's questions. And
Indeed.
yeah, it's pretty much our show. So you can tell everybody where they can find you, and we'll start with you, Hendo.
Okay, you can find me at Ravens Online on Gatekeeper on YouTube, or you can find me at our Gatekeepers on Instagram or Twitter.
Jose?
All right. Lunch break hot take is where you can find me. We do a live show every Wednesday night at 7:15 p.m. Eastern time. Also, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at LBHT Show.
Derek?
Yeah, you can reach me at Backyard Action Media here on YouTube and also at DWeatherly90 on Twitter. And you can also catch me on this fella's show roughly about 8 p.m. with Lunch Money Bets every Wednesday live.
And you can find me at NFL Caleb 22 on Twitter and Instagram, and on this channel on Mondays with Ferris on Good Friends Battle Rivals. And you can find my articles on our website, and you should bet on. So go check out that. And yeah, I'll be also doing reviews of the new Game of Thrones series House of Dragons on Sunday nights. Right after the show, we're going live, me and Justin. So if you like Game of Thrones, go watch that as well. But yeah, thanks for joining, guys. It's fun. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. This is fun.
Yeah,
And for you all watching, thanks for watching. And yeah, tune in next weekend. Like I said, doing Super Bowl odds and MVPs and all that good stuff. So check it out next week.